Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad everyone can join us. I'll give it a few seconds as I see some folks may still be connecting to audio and joining from the waiting room. So we'll sit in awkward silence here for about 5 or 10 more seconds before I get into our wonderful session today. Okay, perfect. It looks like everyone is connected. So again, good afternoon. Welcome to our second Cradle to Career Community Conversations event today. I am your host, Sydney Armendariz, and I am the Chief of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships here at the Cradle to Career office. While we're getting into today's session, please drop your name and organization into the chat. We'd love to know who we have in our audience today, and we'd love to hear from you and about the work that you do. So please put your name and your organization in the chat while I continue talking right now. So today's conversation is all about California College Guidance Initiative. So if you attended our first Community Conversations event back in June, this presentation today is a response to a lot of questions that we received about student-facing tools and other resources for students and families. So if you joined our February governing board meeting way back in the day, we were fortunate enough to have Tessa DeRoy and Anna Castillo present at that board meeting, and just totally fell in love with Anna's story, with her background. So we're happy to have her today. We're also happy to have Joanna Vasquez Zelaya joining us as well from CCGI. So today's presentation is going to be all about them. So just some housekeeping information. Everyone's line is muted today, and that's just to reduce some background chatter and noise that we might get during the presentation. So please use the chat if you have questions throughout the presentation. If you have reflections or anything like that, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. And if you do have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and put them in there, and just know that we'll try to get to them during the formal question and answer session towards the end of today's presentation. So before we get into all that and I hand over the mic, we're just going to start with two polls, again, just to see who we have on the line. So the first poll question that we'll launch is, who are you? Are you here as a K through 12 educator? Are you a community member, an advocate, a parent, high school student, college student, higher education educator, or anyone else that that we did not make a formal option for? Please feel free to indicate that in the chat as well. We just love to know who we're talking to today, especially because this is virtual and we're not all in the same room gathered together. So I'll give a few moments for the poll. I see we have a lot of educators. So right now we have mostly higher education educators and K through 12 educators. We're also fortunate to welcome some advocates as well. So I'll give it a couple more seconds. Oh, we have a parent in the audience. Awesome. Awesome. Happy to have you join us. And so while you're completing that poll, I'll just give some background about these community conversation events. These are happening monthly. This is our second one, and we are just basically giving the community and folks an avenue to hear from us outside of the formal structured board meetings that we host. So these are more intimate conversations that will have to feature our education partners and possibly other practitioners and educators across the state as well. So this is your opportunity to hear from us directly, rather than being in the passive audience at our governing board meetings, hearing all the technical stuff. This is your chance to really get into what we do here at C2C. So we'll go ahead and close the poll now. I see it's mostly educators here. Awesome. And shout out to the two parents that indicated that they're parents on there. That's awesome. I'm sure we have more parents on the line than just the two, but it's awesome to see families represented as well. So the next poll that we will have is, what has been your involvement with the Cradle to Career system? Is this your first time joining a session? Were you involved in the planning work groups? Did you participate in last month's community conversations? We're just interested in hearing that. Last session, I think it was everyone's first time even joining a C2C meeting. So just curious to see where everyone stands with C2C. And it looks like about the same. This is everyone's first time joining a session. Awesome. And then some folks participated in last month's June community conversation. And 2 people were involved in the planning work groups. Great. So thank you so much for completing those polls. That gives us a good sense of who we're talking to today. So now enough of me. I'll get into what you're really here for. I'd like to introduce our wonderful speakers from CCGI. So first off, we have Joanna Vasquez Zelaya. She serves as the Deputy Director of Community Engagement, driving efforts to close equity gaps by building partnerships with California communities and ensuring the work is centered on the needs and experiences of students, families, and educators. Prior to joining CCGI, Joanna worked with the Oakland Unified School District, where she designed and managed the implementation of local policy that generated supplemental revenue to redesign traditional high schools and linked learning career academies. Back in her home of Southern California, she led and contributed to advocacy efforts to improve the educational outcomes and experiences for Latino and Latina students in Los Angeles. Joanna also earned her MPA from UC Berkeley's Goldman School of Public Policy and her BA from UCLA. So that's one of our speakers from CCGI. Our second speaker is Anna Castillo. She serves as a student voice coordinator and supports the communications team with producing content featuring first-generation high school students and recent high school graduates. She helps recruit students who use californiacolleges.edu for college and career planning, and she ensures their voices are represented in CCGI's outreach presentations to parents, educators, and other stakeholders. Before CCGI, Anna engaged in volunteer work for her community, helping her city during the summer and fellow youth and in after-school programs. She's a recent high school graduate and is the first in her family to attend college. And just a personal note, I saw Anna's presentation back in February. She is the epitome of what a high school student should aspire to be. If anything, I want to be her when I grow up. She was just amazing. Her story was awesome. I just can't even believe she's just a high school graduate, I'll be honest with you. So I just want to welcome them, and I'm so excited to get into this presentation. So I'll hand it over to Joanna and Anna.
Thank you, Sydney. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about californiacolleges.edu. I have a lot of screens, so I can't see you all, but it's good to see as many as those of you there on camera. Sydney said, I'm Joanna. I serve as a Deputy Director of Community Engagement for the Southern California region here at CCGI. And with me are also my colleagues, Anna, Student Voice Coordinator, Doris Ingram, my fellow Deputy Director of Community Engagement for the Northern California region, and of course, Tess, our President. So before we start, I want to emphasize that we want this meeting to be a two-way conversation as much as possible. So if something is exciting or intriguing, raises questions for you, feel free to drop that in the chat. My team is monitoring that and going to be engaging in that. And of course, we have time for Q&A at the end. So we'll make sure we answer some of those questions live for you. But before we get started, we actually want to hear from you. So we're going to run our first poll. And just get a second to have it run. So have you heard of californiacolleges.edu before? Oh, makes me very happy to see a lot of yeses, and also very excited for the no's, because I hope you walk away feeling like, okay, I know what this is. So I'm gonna check in with you all, especially those no's, see if we're doing our due diligence. All right, we get some last minute folks answering the poll. And we'll go ahead and close the poll. So it looks like a little over half have heard of us before, which is awesome. Where we hope that what you've heard is great things and you're here to learn more. And for those of you that haven't heard of us yet, we hope this is an opportunity to really introduce you to the work and to our team. So thank you all for answering that question for us. So today we're excited to introduce you californiacolleges.edu, the state of California's official college and career planning platform. Our team at the California College Guidance Initiative is the state-funded nonprofit that manages californiacolleges.edu. At CCGI, we believe, like many of your educational institutions and organizations, that the future of California really depends on the success of all students. But achieving that goal and making that a reality, especially for students who have been traditionally and even continue to be excluded from higher education and high-paying careers, has significant challenges. Students experience so many obstacles along the way, and those obstacles weigh most heavily upon the students who have been, historically, and again, continue to be underserved. So our goal is really to remove as many obstacles as we can to student success and help create a smoother pathway between K through 12, higher ed, careers through the use of californiacolleges.edu. So now we want to hear a little more from you. So we're going to run another poll. So the question is, when I think of college and career planning, I think students need the most help with, right? So we're talking about college and career. We're talking about that pathway, that journey. It's confusing, it's complicated. What do students, in your experience, your own, the students you engage with, the folks in your community, your own children and family and loved ones, what do they need the most help with? Seeing a lot of all of the above. Okay, gonna give it a couple more seconds. I think we closed the poll. So the majority of you has said all of the above, and we agree, right? All of those absolutely important. Some more real for a particular student or student population, but nonetheless, all of them absolutely important to support students with. So thank you all for sharing. So what is the problem that we at CCGI are trying to solve? The problem is that process, that journey of life after high school and planning for it is actually really hard to navigate and really hard to understand and confusing for students and parents. So californiacolleges.edu really empowers students and families by providing them a one-stop shop for the tools they need to successfully complete that journey from K through 12 to post-secondary education plans, right? We also provide educators with actionable data they need to target, to understand where students are at, determine why they are there, to identify interventions to really support the students in the ways that they need. And we provide educational systems, higher educational systems, especially the data they need to inform key decisions about things like admissions, placement, guidance, and financial aid, all of which have significant impact on a student's trajectory. So California is really investing in a common platform, right? The processes students and families have to navigate, to plan for, and transition to a degree or certificate program or a career after high school is specific to our California systems. Most students who attend some form of higher education actually stay in state, right? As you can see, actually 80% of K through 12 students stay in state. So we're working to streamline systems for students and families while providing educational institutions and systems with the tools they need to implement student success policies and investments. So this is really a joint process and effort with the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office, California State University Chancellor's Office, University of California's Office of the President, the California Student Aid Commission, and the California Department of Education, right? All important bodies that manage all these systems. So what I mean by that is that there are lots of really important policies and investments that the state is making to try to improve student success. But without the proper tools to support that implementation, the intended impact of those policies is often not felt by students. So for example, starting this year, school districts are required to ensure all 12th grade students submit a FAFSA or a California DREAM Act. We refer to that as Universal FAFSA or CADA, AB 469, for those of you that know legislative bills and numbers, and all the research that shows the submission of a financial aid application is the strongest predictor of a student actually enrolling in post-secondary education of some kind. So this has the potential to be transformative for students, but only if districts have the tools and the support to implement that. CaliforniaColleges.edu has a suite of financial aid lessons and tools that make it possible for students to navigate the financial aid application process, even if they don't have the support of a knowledgeable adult. Of course, we all wish that there were enough well-trained financial aid experts and that all our parents had all the information they needed in that moment to support their students through that journey, right? And that there were enough educators to have that one-on-one support all of the time. But that's not yet true. So we thought it was important to have a set of tools that any school district could plug into to accomplish the goals of this important legislation. And similarly, the state is making big investments in goals that are supported by CaliforniaColleges.edu as a platform. So for example, there's $500 million investment in A through G completion improvement grants approved in last year's budgets and that many districts submitted grant applications for, right, to improve that A through G completion rate. And there's a $250 million investment in the regional K through 16 education collaboratives that include goals like high-tech, high-touch advising, college affordability, and increasing A through G completion rates. So CaliforniaColleges.edu really provides districts and educators the tools to support and supplement that work, and also with reports using verified data that can be used to report on the compliance with those state policies and make better informed data-driven decisions. So CaliforniaColleges.edu is the state's official college and career planning platform, and it's a critical part of that data infrastructure for the Cradle-to-Career data system. And that Cradle-to-Career legislation, AB 132, has the goal of bringing this platform to all eligible middle and high school students by 2026. So in order to make that goal possible, the legislation had made these tools free to all K through 12 districts across the state. And although we, CCGI, have been working with districts across California for several years, we are now really being focused on scaling under the Cradle-to-Career data system. So you'll see on the slide our current presence in counties across the state on the visual map. We're currently serving about 1 million students in 138 school districts, and we're working with an additional 43 that are some point of our onboarding process about learning and thinking about how they're going to use this platform, which means we'll be adding an additional 1 million students by fall 2023. So what is CaliforniaColleges.edu? I mean, essentially, it's a one-stop shop for all the resources students need to set goals for life after high school, make plans to achieve them, and really launch their futures. And then in essence, it becomes a one-stop shop for parents and educators who support them along that journey. So it becomes a bridge from K through 12 to whatever post-secondary education plan a student has, to that career, to that financial aid system. But instead of just saying that to you all over and over again, I want to make sure I share with you how that bridge actually comes to life for a student with the support of an educator. So we're going to go ahead and play a video and just want to ensure that we have audio. So Doris, if you can unmute.
I never would have believed I'd have so many choices. School seemed like that conveyor belt at the grocery store checkout. You just ride on it to land, and it dumps you off where you're supposed to go. In college, that never seemed like an option at all.
I remember sitting down with Javier in the guidance office. When I asked what he wanted to do, he shrugged. But when I asked what he enjoyed doing, he really opened up. Javier didn't see how his interest connected to jobs, so I walked him through a career assessment on californiacolleges.edu.
My dad's a mechanic. I've always loved seeing how things work. The career assessment Miss Hill had me do came back with jobs I'd never even thought of. Electrician, aircraft technician, even mechanical engineer.
Javier spent a lot of time on the career search tool, researching what these jobs involved, what they paid, and what kind of education or training he'd need to get them.
One thing that they all had in common was that they needed more than just a high school diploma. To be a mechanical engineer, my best bet is a bachelor's degree, while an associate's degree could really help in becoming an aircraft technician. To be an electrician, I need to get certification.
Javier needed to find schools with specific programs, and he needed them to be affordable and close to home. The major search tool let him put in programs of study, then find colleges that offered them. He found 3 nearby. LA Trade Tech provides an electrician certification program. West LA College has an AS in aviation maintenance, and Cal State Northridge offers a BS in mechanical engineering.
All these schools require different things. If I wanted to be eligible for CSU, I'd have to meet A through G requirements. That meant passing a bunch of high school classes in different subjects, along with having the right GPA. I was already a junior, and I was worried I was way behind.
Calculating A through G eligibility by hand is confusing, but because the CSU and UC eligibility tools connect to Javier's actual transcript, figuring it out was a snap. I ran a report and found that Javier was just 2 units off track for CSU.
Miss Hill helped me find a summer English course to get caught up, and I was able to test out a Spanish too. I even used the academic planner to plot out all my senior year courses and make sure I stayed on target.
Javier applied to 3 schools, CSU Northridge, West LA College, and LA Trade Tech. Since he used his californiacolleges.edu account to apply, I could track when each application was submitted.
The CSU application was the most intimidating because I had to enter all my A through G courses. What if I left something off or got a course name wrong? It turned out to be a breeze. californiacolleges.edu let me automatically import my A through G courses right from my account. It took 30 seconds, and it made sure I didn't make any mistakes that could hurt my eligibility.
By submitting his CCC Apply applications through californiacolleges.edu, his transcript data was automatically passed along with them. That way, LA Trade Tech and West LA College had the information they needed to properly place him in first-year English and math.
Applying was one thing. Figuring out how to pay for college, something else.
Javier applied to 3 different schools, but when I ran the financial aid application report, I could see he hadn't submitted a FAFSA or California Dream Act application. So I called him into the guidance office. I wanted him to know there was financial aid out there for him.
No one in my family had ever gone to college, so I had no idea how paying for it worked. I was freaking out about how I was going to be able to get loans for school, or how I paid them off, even if I did. Ms. Hill pointed me to the financial aid lessons, which took me step by step through how financial aid worked and how to apply. Turned out I was eligible for a whole bunch of free grants, and work study too.
Javier launched his financial aid application through his californiacolleges.edu account. That let us both track when it was submitted and whether the school had sent his GPA, so he could be eligible for a Cal Grant.
So what did you all hear that stood out? Is there anything that resonated with you? Again, feel free to drop some of those reflections in the chat. Was there anything exciting, interesting, anything that you would have found useful in your own journey? So yeah, just wanting you all to think about that. Okay, I'm seeing community college and FAFSA applications incorporated into the site. Yes, it's amazing to have it in one place, especially when FAFSA.com sounds like a very real website. And we all know that it's not the right place, right? Okay, awesome. So I'm seeing some people drop some reflections, a great resource. Yes, happy to hear that. Career options and pay. Young people want to know how much they get paid. Yes, our career search tools does give you a median salary, so you did get an idea of what it of salary and what that means, right? Okay, I'm gonna keep asking you all to drop the one-on-one support. That's awesome, right? A tool to really make that one-on-one support that's happening at a school site potentially even more intentional, right? So keep sharing those. I appreciate that. And now I really want to welcome my colleague Anna, who just joined CCGI as our student voice coordinator. And she did so having used californiacolleges.edu herself to guide her college and career planning and actual transition process. So Anna, I welcome you to the virtual stage. I can't see you in the thread here, but just want you to share your experience of what it was like in your life to use the platform.
Hi, of course. Thank you, Joanna, for introducing me. Good afternoon, everyone, well, yeah, afternoon. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about californiacolleges.edu. My name is Anna Castillo, and I serve as a student voice coordinator at CCGI, or California College Guidance Initiative. I am so happy to be here. I just joined like literally a month ago. Today's my 1 month anniversary. But I am one of the many students that has benefited from the wonders of californiacolleges.edu as a platform. I am, just a little background, I am the first person in my family to go to college, as I'm going to UC San Diego to double major in human biology and microbiology with a minor in business. As a lot of people might know, high school is not an easy journey, and that seems to be the case more now, as we advance with technology and counselors have so many cases and workload. And my high school journey was not an easy one either. And I was thankfully introduced to the platform californiacolleges.edu during my freshman year, when I was put in a college and career class. This class was mandatory at my school for any students that were not a part of a college readiness program called AVID. Many of you might know of it. I was exposed to a resource that ended up benefiting me a lot in the future, thanks to its preparation class, which was californiacolleges.edu. After forgetting about the platform for a while, I was reintroduced to it during the COVID-19 pandemic, when I had to go out of my way as a student to receive help when I needed it. And, having my entire junior year of high school online was never the idea. You always hear that junior year is the hardest year of them all, and having it online was possibly even 10 times worse. And I did not know how to adjust from in-person to virtual. It was incredibly difficult for me, and I had very limited access to my teachers and my counselors, and I relied heavily on the internet for help on my college and career journey, because even though everybody was always online, it never felt like everybody was present, and it was very hard to reach my counselors and my teachers online. And so I am also the first person in my family to go to college, so I couldn't really rely on my parents either for any information. So, the internet, Google was just my big help. And so when I was researching colleges on my own during the pandemic, I remembered being exposed to californiacolleges.edu. And so I went back and I went and saw what I could use useful, and while I had been pretty sure my freshman year that I wanted to go into the medical field, during my junior year, I was still very unsure about what career would be best for me in terms of my skills and my interests. And so I took many of the assessments provided on the platform, including the interest profiler and the multiple intelligence assessment. And these helped me narrow down what careers I was interested in and which one I wanted to really pursue. And these assessments also helped me explain to my parents, more importantly, my mom, what I wanted to do and why it was the best choice for me. It seems very funny, but my mom has always been very focused on the why and the how when it comes to my future goals, and the interest profiler gave me readable and valuable results that I could share with her. Every time that I tell her something, I have to always think about every single detail involved, because she's the type of person to ask what, why, when, how, where, and so she had me actually take the assessment multiple times in order to confirm that the results were valid, which they were. And eventually she saw that my interests and my future career choice was supported by my skills and my knowledge, and it wasn't just something that I was, I all of a sudden want to be a lawyer today. It was supported by the evidence that I took the assessments. And also, coming from an immigrant family and being an immigrant myself, it's very important that I share the information and the thought process behind every single choice I make with my family. And, the platform californiacolleges.edu, it helped me in so many ways. And it also helped ease some of her worries, since she is a Spanish speaker. There's a lot of parent information in Spanish on the platform. And my mom even kept saying that this information should be made available on Univision to all Spanish speaking parents. And, you know, those sections in Spanish also helped me personally, as sometimes when I'm constantly translating back and forth between English, my brain just does not work and turns into a mess. And so, you know, sometimes it would be a lot easier and it would come in useful to just, you know, pull up the site with the Spanish information and just show it to her instead of trying to translate it myself. And so, yeah, I ended up applying to 14 colleges in total, and 12 of those were through californiacolleges.edu. I applied to 6 UCs and 6 CSUs. The CSU applications were extremely easy. Like, I cannot say this enough, due to the platform importing my courses and my grades and helping me enter my A through G coursework into the correct required categories. And californiacolleges.edu also imported my transcript into the CSU application, which saved me hours of time. And the application process for schools and financial aid is never easy, but having californiacolleges.edu as a resource was an immense amount of help. I was able to fill out my FAFSA application for the first time ever without any issues occurring. I didn't have to do any corrections. I didn't have to go back and fix anything, since I was able to go through the financial aid lessons that helped explain the process to me very simply. The lessons were very easy to understand, they were easy to follow, and were set up in a way that was organized into a clear sequence of bite-sized chunks. I was able to check things off my checklist after I was done with them and not worry about anything until the next month came by, which was very useful as a high school senior, you know, not having to worry for something until the next month came by. And these lessons were so easy to understand that it was very easy for me personally to translate into Spanish, which is something that I always tell my mom: if I can't understand it in English, I don't know how I'm going to tell it to you in Spanish, you know? And so if it was very much easy for a 17-year-old to understand those lessons in English, it was easier for me to even translate into Spanish. And I finished a few of the last checklist items that were left in May, a few weeks prior to graduating. They were easy to understand and effective, as I felt like I would be okay the next time that I filled out another application for the following school year. And californiacolleges.edu made the impossible process of starting a new life easy with the incredible resources and tools that the platform offers. You know, I keep telling this to Tess, but I wish it was a required part of like my high school classes and lessons, you know, having to use californiacolleges.edu, because it's far more helpful than anything I've learned in like college and career class in 9th grade. So yeah. Thank you, guys. I will hand it over to my colleague, Joanna.
Thank you, Anna, for sharing your experience with us and helping us really understand what it's like to be a high school student nowadays, navigating, you know, this process and how you use the tool. I'm sure that many of you can think of a specific student either that you work with or you served, or maybe even yourself, right, in your journey in your college, post-secondary education planning, and you might have some similarities. So I think it's important to emphasize how californiacolleges.edu can really be leveraged by and for students who have a varying degree of experiences in education, right? Starting points, support systems that can support them through that process of figuring out what their life after high school is going to be like for them. So Anna mentioned, if we can go to the next slide, Anna mentioned some different functionalities of our platform. So I just want to take a quick moment to make sure that I review them with you and continue to build that knowledge and understanding of what californiacolleges.edu has to offer. First, I'd like to mention that students can start accessing these particular tools as early as 6th grade, and new grade appropriate tools continue to become available as students progress through high school. Our platform includes career assessments and search tools that help students really understand their interests, their passions, how they learn, and translate those into career options. There are also college search tools and major search tools that really help students figure out, okay, now that I know that a career, what does that mean in terms of education, right? I know I wanted to be a lawyer for a while. I didn't know if law was a major. I'd never heard of that, let alone did I know about law school, right? So thankfully I didn't do that part. But it really helps students translate that to be able to answer the question, what is your major? Where are you going to go study, right? And let it be rooted in those passions they identified. And then, of course, when we're thinking about those plans, financial aid is often and can feel like a huge conversation to tackle with students, right? A barrier. So our platform offers free financial aid tools, which help them not only just learn about what financial aid is or how to apply, but actually walk them through launching and submitting that application. And what I always think is great about the financial aid tools is, we get students past that March 2nd deadline, right? Most of us just are focused on getting the students there, but we actually go past it by having lessons that go all the way through May. I mean, Anna mentioned doing some checklist items in May to really help secure that aid, right? What is the aid that you're getting? Secure it to make sure that you can actually pay for those post-secondary education plans you're making. And then, of course, that's a lot of future planning, forward thinking, excitement. But our platform also offers CSU and UC eligibility tools, which students and educators can see a visual representation of a student's transcript and their progress toward completing their A through G requirements in real time, in the moment, right? I've identified a plan. Am I actually on track to make that happen? So when courses in the CSU eligibility tool show up as green, they're considered pre-verified for the purposes of admission. So CaliforniaColleges.edu's integrations with the FAFSA, the California DREAM Act, CCC Apply, CalState Apply, and the University of California applications are unique and valuable aspects of the platform. These integrations allow students to launch their college applications and financial aid applications directly from their account on CaliforniaColleges.edu. And when they do, they're able to track whether they've launched, completed, and submitted their application, which is obviously really important to be able to be on top of. And to support students, educators need to be able to monitor their progress at every stage of the journey, right? From career exploration to actually submitting all those necessary applications. And not just that, right? Not just educators, but also parents. Parents are able to have accounts and able to see what are students doing in all these different aspects of the platform. What careers are they saving? What majors and colleges are they favoriting, right? Those financial aid lessons, are they working through them? Those CSU, UC eligibility tools, are they on track? So CaliforniaColleges.edu's educator tools make the process easier by allowing educators to view all of their students at a glance and see where they're at and all of the use of the different parts of our platform, and then actually drill down into specific student records. So if there's an issue, so if a student needs support, they can really understand where they're at and provide some more intentional intervention. So we've shared a lot of information with you today, and we hope that you're excited about the tools that students and parents and educators can have when they access and they have CaliforniaColleges.edu. But before we take questions, we want to hear one more time from you. So we're going to run our last poll. And we just want to know, after hearing this presentation, how do you feel about understanding CaliforniaColleges.edu? I know most of you have heard about us before, some of you hadn't at all. So really just trying to assess, did you learn something new? Did you understand something better? You walk around with some understanding, but you still have some questions. So we're going to give a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm going to close the poll, please. And it looks like almost 50% have a deeper understanding. Yes, thank you. Excited to hear that. Some of you, so it looks like you learned something new, and you learned a little bit more than just something new. So excited to see that a lot of you have walked away with some some understanding that you might have not had when you first entered this space. So just want to thank you on behalf of our team for joining us and learning together. For those of you that are educators in districts across our state serving 6th to 12th grade students, and you want to have follow-up conversations or demonstrations or presentations for your team, please reach out to us. I'm going to ask my team to drop our community engagement email in the chat to just let's have follow-up conversation. Let's keep building and raising awareness and buy-in together. For those of you that are parents, have students, are advocates, community members, or support, K through 12 districts and some other capacity for higher ed institutions on the call, and you want to see this platform in the hands of the 6th to 12th grade students in your communities and that you will support at some point, help us connect with district leaders in your region and in your area to raise their awareness, their understanding, and their buy-in to really bring this platform to their students. We know that in order for change to be meaningful and sustainable and have a real student impact, it's going to take all of us on the call and so many more that you all work with to ensure students, parents, and educators can use californiacolleges.edu to its full capacity in planning and supporting students planning for life after high school. So thank you all again, and I'm going to turn to Tess or Sydney to questions. I know the chat's been lighting up on my end, so exciting to see.
Yes. Thank you so much, Joanna and Anna, for that wonderful presentation. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And now this is pretty much our Q&A session. So it's your chance to ask our wonderful speakers and our colleagues any questions you may have about their work, the CCGI organization, anything about the system itself. Please feel free to drop any questions you have. So I'll kind of start off the Q&A session with one question that we have. I think Tess kind of answered it in here as well, in the chat as well. But let's see, Luis mentioned, I remember when I was in high school 1,000 years ago, those are his words, not mine. There were scholarship scams. How do we increase digital literacy so that folks aren't going to fastfood.com, et cetera? And he mentioned when he was putting California colleges into a search engine, .com was the first response and not .edu. So Tess kind of answered that and just, in saying that CCGI will look into it. But I don't know, Joanna and Anna, if you want to talk more broadly about digital literacy or any work that CCGI is doing regarding that, that'd be great as well.
Yeah, no, I think the reality is, especially in the pandemic, has been shared by many advocates, is a need for digital literacy and support. So we're acknowledging that and know that. And I want to say that the one thing that I don't think addressing digital literacy will answer, but actually our platform does, is when students launch their financial aid applications directly from the platform, when they click that launch button, it automatically will send them to the correct website. So the lesson helps them distinguish the difference between a FAFSA or a California DREAM Act. They select the application that is correct for them based on the qualifiers, right, listed in that lesson. And then it curates the rest of the lessons and it actually updates that launch button. So a student doesn't need to go through an in-depth, if they don't have digital literacy, it's not going to stop them from ensuring to fill out the correct application, because when they click launch, it will send them to the fafsa.ed.gov, right? When they click launch, it'll send them to the correct website for the California DREAM Act. So, and on that end, having it on one-stop shop really starts to minimize that, where students are going, and it takes out the need for a student to search the web and figure it out themselves.
And kind of adding on to that, I can attest to high schoolers not wanting to read anything ever. So I can say that when the vocabulary is just highlighted straight up, just simple on the front of the lesson, it gives kind of like an easier way to read and just figure out what you actually need to do. So not only is it a one-stop shop, but it's very easy to understand, and it's not difficult for a high school student that does not like to read to just read it, because it's not any more information. It just has the vocabulary word, and then you can find out what it is through there.
Great, thank you. So I see a question that came through the chat earlier and asking, how do high schools know about this? So if you can talk about your marketing efforts, your partnerships with local school districts, and how you get the information about californiacolleges.edu out to the high schools, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's how is all the ways that we can, right? As I mentioned, we're really focused on scaling this year. So we are at CSU counselor conferences. We are at CSAC conferences. We are in all the leadership bodies that exist, right? AXA, CALSA, any association that brings together education leaders at any level of a school district, especially, decision makers. We are in those spaces. We're starting to have these presentations where we're building awareness, providing communications materials. And then, of course, there's word of mouth. Educators share with each other the things that they are doing, which brings educators to the table. And then we're starting to connect with nonprofit organizations that engage with parents, engage in other capacities in the K-12 space to, at minimum, begin to raise awareness, right? Hey, this is something that's on your campus, or this is something that could be on your campus. This is what you could have access to. We're working with CSUs, right? We're engaging with CSU campuses across the state to, again, raise that awareness, build that information, share communications collateral with them to share with the districts, that are on their priority list and their outreach efforts. So we're doing all the things, and I'm sure that there are other ways we can also do. So if you all have a exciting convened space where we could inform your education leaders, we're happy to do that.
Hey, Sydney, can I jump in on one question that was in the chat that's just a little too lengthy to try and answer via chat?
Of course.
Thanks so much. So Marcos, sorry, needs glasses. The answer about students utilizing the platform independent of their districts. So we really encourage the optimal way for a student to engage the platform is through an account that's created by their district. And the reason for that is that their transcripts then get populated into their accounts. And there's a lot more functionality for them. And it also helps to avoid errors when they're applying to higher ed. But if you're interested, for example, so we don't normally encourage students to independently sign up. We would be happy to talk with you about a specific school district that you want to engage. It is possible for students to sign up and create an account. It just doesn't have all the functionality that you would want. So they just have to sign on to the platform, just go to the link and there's a way to sign on, but it's suboptimal. I mean, there's definitely a lot of tools there, and especially the financial aid tools are available, which is good.
Thank you so much, Tess. And so I see we have a question about if CCGI, if the team is able to do presentations, possibly in person this fall. If you can share information about possibly how to get in contact with someone at CCGI to come out and do a presentation, how people can reach you, that'd be great as well.
Yeah, I will have Doris drop our email one more time. So our community engagement email, community engagement at californiacolleges.edu. Feel free to send us an email. Let us know who you are, who are you interested in us talking to, what do you want us to talk about? We want to sit with you and really understand your vision, your interests, your priorities, your needs, really, and how we can definitely bring to your stakeholders this presentation, again, to start raising some awareness, building some buy-in, and want to support you in that work. So we're definitely open and actually asking for that. So yeah, feel free to send us an email.
Thank you. And please keep the questions in the chat going. We still have about 11 minutes for you to get in your questions. We'd love to hear from you as well. I guess a personal question for the CCGI staff. So I know that this is, a student-facing, educator-facing tool, but what are you most excited about this partnership with the Cradle-to-Career data system? Just in your own work, like what do you envision happening with this wonderful partnership that we're embarking on? So sorry to put you all on the spot, but I figured it was probably a good question to ask in light of our community conversation.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I worked at a school district, and I remember all the hard work that it took for folks with really well intentions who were really centered on students, thinking about how do we serve them better when they come to us at the high school, right? Because they get here in a certain space. What do we do in the high school? And how do we know that we're actually supporting them once they leave us? Like we set them up for what they need. So to me, the most exciting thing about this being part of C2C is that districts will start being able to contribute to that cradle to career data system that so many of us seek to be able to assess whether or not we're serving our students well throughout their experience, right? Throughout from start to finish, given so many systems interact and engage students and families in so many different ways, right? There's so much inequity. So being able to contribute to something that is going to be larger, to really push systems to keep everything student and family centered, to me is the most exciting part of that.
Oh, go ahead, Tess.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think the opportunity that the Cradle to Career system makes possible is a lot of the things that we have to smooth out in the path for students require more than one institution to be working in alignment. And so the opportunity through C2C is to help get some of these points that are not aligned into greater alignment as we move forward, so that there's agreement about how a process should work, and that's communicated clearly to everyone, and that the data transfers efficiently from place to place. So those are all the things that we're hoping to be working, and we are currently working with all of the segments on, and we'll continue to do so as we move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else from CCGI want to attack that question?
Just as work with college access, my background's working with the CSUs and college access work, and just to really agree and have that alignment and the support to parents, because especially for first generation students and for districts who may not have the resources to provide one-on-one support, to provide an equitable playing field for access for life after high school book planning and really help to attain those goals is huge. And to see that in a state like California, we're going to lead the nation in this work. So it's really, really incredible to be on the ground supporting the work.
Yes, thank you, Doris. I wholeheartedly agree. I think, one of the reasons why I personally wanted to join this work is just, this is government working for the people, definitely using this system to inform decisions, to inform tools and resources for California's communities, families, students. I wish I had something like this when I was going through high school and college and things like that. Just a tool that like a one-stop shop that I could use to help me just navigate all of these various requirements and credits and courses and all this stuff. It was so overwhelming. And, and I'm fortunate enough to come from, my mom was educated. She has her master's degree. So, even she was like, I have no idea what to do with this, and so I can only imagine someone who does not have, that background. This information is just, it's so mind-boggling and it's so overwhelming, especially as a young person. So I'm super excited for this work to continue and to expand. So enough of me and my spiel. We'll get back to the questions in the Q&A before we wrap up here. So I do see a question about from Luis about are the sufficient dollars, aka is this a priority in budget secured so that this platform is maintained and is around for say 5+ years, so that the sixth graders now can still use it when they're applying for colleges. And so I think just the basic question are there plans for sustaining this? Is this a huge priority for us to continue, which I would say it is. But as far as different policy and admin changes, what's the vision like for 5+ years from now?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest problems that occur in K-12 is that people don't want to learn new platforms because then they're going to be gone 2 years later, right? And so we've made it very clear to the legislature and the executive branch that this has got to be something that's sustained in order for people to really invest time and meaningfully integrate these tools into practices so that they reach kids. So 100% Luis, but I also think like it's everybody's job to continue to make known that there should be enough support for this over the longer haul. It's something that we hope to build more and more support as the tools get stronger and stronger and we're serving more and more students.
Thank you. So next question, is there a way for college admin or staff to explore the site? And does the site help connect students to adult education and or non-credit institutions as post-secondary options?
Not presently. I mean, we have demo accounts that we could share if somebody wanted to explore the site, but we do not, the site is not designed for that purpose. And then in terms of the connections to non-credit, I mean, we do give students in the content pages, there's information about adult education options. We don't have any explicit linkages. If there's a particular pain point that you think could be solved, we'd be happy to hear about it so that we can put it in the very long list of development priorities, but we're happy to learn more about it. It's not an area that we've spent a huge amount of time doing our due diligence in.
And can I just add something, Tess? Like, although the platform doesn't have, accounts for college and admin staff, for example, I think this is the part of pushing systems for collaboration, right? We're happy to talk to the colleges about which districts in your priority in your region are priority to you, who are partners, who have accounts, who use it in this capacity. So you can walk into conversations knowing this information. So you can be intentional about how you have conversations with the folks that you are building relationships at the K-12 level. So definitely not, you might not have the thing, but it exists, it's happening at K-12, and you can now leverage that for conversation. If the district wants to cross collaborate and share their data, give you reports, give you information, that's totally their prerogative. But I think this is a great starting point to build those relationships and build collaboration, to be more intentional and thoughtful, right? So definitely want to add that opportunity for college and higher ed partners to think about.
I see Karen had a related question about the benefit to community college-bound students, and so I just want to address that as well. There are a lot of different potential benefits to community college-bound students. So yes, you can track a CCC apply application. In doing so, when students launch their application from California colleges, we can actually connect to their CCC identifier, which means you can start matching academic records and all the things that you might want to be able to do across to bridge those systems. But what we see in terms of K-12 usage is a lot of educators looking at, are our students who are applying to the CCCs, do they have a program? Do they have a career selected on the platform? Have they saved or favorited a career? Do they have a program of study, a major that they're actually interested in, so that they're entering the community college system with intentionality, which is all part of the guided pathways work that the CCCs are rolling out, right? So I would argue that in some ways, community college-bound students have the most to gain from the platform, but it's a system designed to serve students on any pathway.
Great, thank you. So we'll go ahead and wrap up Q&A. Of course, if you have any other questions, please reach out to us here at C2C. I dropped our email address in the chat. and our website as well. And yes, we will try to send out the presentation slides and also post a link to the recording. Give us some time, maybe within the next week or so. But in closing, I just want to say thank you so much to California Colleges Guidance Initiative. Thank you for just putting on this awesome presentation, sharing your stories, sharing your work with us. This has been amazing to hear from you. Hopefully you all in the audience took something away from it, and you learned something new. And thank you again to just everyone who joined us today, from parents to educators to community members. Just thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen and learn. And of course, thank you to Collaborative Communications, our partners, for hosting today's Zoom session as well. So if you have any requests for future community conversations events, please drop them in the chat as you exit. If not, and you're lying awake at night and you're like, oh, this will be such a good session, please feel free to email us at info@c2c.ca.gov. But thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.